Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
There's a new tool to track the health impacts of cross-border pollution. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. San Diego County will release weekly reports on stomach illnesses based on data from South Bay hospitals and health clinics. KPBS reporter Scott Rodd says the monitoring is tied to concerns about ocean water contamination from cross-border sewage.
It's a beautiful sunny day in Imperial Beach, and no one is in the water. Little yellow signs dot the golden sand, warning of contaminated water. Joel Acedo goes surfing here almost every day. He says he's willing to take his chances, but he won't let his young grandchildren in the water.
In the morning, they're always like, well, let's go to the beach, let's go to the beach. And they're 5, 6, and 3 years old. So I'm like really aware that they can get sick anytime.
San Diego County already monitors and publishes data on water quality. Now it will track and release data on stomach illnesses in the South Bay. The weekly reports will show patient symptom data collected from 17 emergency departments. The county will also provide monthly updates on trends in confirmed cases of communicable diseases, such as hepatitis A and E. coli. So far, the county says the data shows no clear trends for increased hospital visits or confirmed illnesses. But Imperial Beach residents told KPBS they're glad the public has access to the data.
My wife and myself have both had some symptoms of stomach illnesses. Don't really know for sure if it's connected, but to hear some of the stories out there now, it kind of makes me think that it's a possibility. We need transparency for sure.
You can find the weekly reports on the county's website at sandiegocounty.gov. In Imperial Beach, Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
A temporary lodging program for San Diegans displaced from their homes following January's flood is ending. Tomorrow, more than 800 households will receive letters letting them know if they have to leave the hotel. The county separated households into 3 categories based on their specific circumstance. One group will transition out of the program within 7 days. The second group will have 2 weeks, and the third will be able to stay until May 11th.
A lot of us are having issues with finding places to live, because I mean, there's they're asking for 3 times the amount of rent, or if I'm on Section 8, I'm also having trouble. If people don't accept Section 8 or haven't heard about Section 8.
The county says nearly 2,300 people are already approved to receive funds from FEMA to help with home repairs and shelter.
All right, let's look a little further ahead in time to tonight. We're dropping down to a low of 50. Now it is going to be mainly clear, though we do have some action on the way later on this week. We're going to show you how temperatures play out as we head over these next few days and when that next chance for rain will make its way through.
More than 400 humanitarian organizations are asking the Biden administration to stop all deportations to Haiti. Experts told KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis that conditions in the Caribbean nation are too dangerous right now.
Haiti is in chaos right now as armed groups have taken over the country, and Americans there are leaving.
It's just unconscionable given the conditions on the ground. I mean, I'm receiving calls just every single day just of people in panic, not able to get food or water, no electricity, no ability to even move to do those things, and without risking your life.
Blaine Bookey is the legal director of the Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, one of the organizations asking the Biden administration to stop deportations. The U.S. Department of State issued a do not travel advisory to Haiti. Officials say kidnapping is widespread, violent crime is common, and travelers are sometimes followed and violently robbed shortly after leaving the Haitian airport. The San Diego-based Haitian Bridge Alliance is the advocacy organization leading the call to stop deportations. Gerline Joseph is the executive director.
It's incredible. It's unconscionable for deportations to be happening to Haiti.
Joseph says that it is immoral to force people back to such a dangerous situation. She points out that the most recent deportation flight was scheduled for February 29th, the last day of Black History Month.
We wanted to deport Black folks to the first Black independent country in the Americas, the one that fight for freedom for all people. And that's how we chose to close Black History Month.
That flight never landed because armed groups took over the airport. And even though the airport remains closed, deportations continue by sea, including 65 Haitians on March 7th.
So that's why we are calling on the Biden administration to stop all deportation by air and or by sea to Haiti right now.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
More than 500,000 fast food workers in San Diego County and across the state are being paid more as of today. A new minimum wage took effect today, with employees being paid $20 per hour, up from $16. Under the new law, quick service restaurants like McDonald's and fast casual operators like Chipotle are included. Some customers say they already see the price of their food going up.
I mean, we're on a fixed income. McDonald's up on Paradise Valley Road, senior decaf cost $1. McDonald's in Plaza Boulevard, National City, $1.59 for seniors. Apple pie it's $1.99 in one place, $2.19 in the other.
Bakeries and restaurants inside a grocery store are exempt from the state law. The law also does not apply to food trucks because they're considered small businesses. Finding an affordable home to buy has become more and more difficult in recent years. There's not enough supply to meet demand, and mortgage rates are high. As Jen Sullivan reports, a new study finds in nearly half the country, Americans need to make 6 figures to afford a home.
Some dismal news for homebuyers in the U.S. A recent analysis by Bankrate.com found that in 22 states and Washington, D.C., purchasers need to make a 6-figure salary to afford a typical home. Bankrate calculated that buyers would need to earn $110,871 a year to afford the median home price, which was just over $400,000 in January, according to Redfin. Bankrate found that people in the West and the Northeast will need the most income, while buyers in the South and the Midwest will need the least income. Of course, defining affordability is challenging. Other factors matter too, like savings and debt. And experts say wages haven't kept pace with the rising cost of homeownership.
We had a substantial price increase in the past 3 years, about 30-40% price gain in many parts of the country, way outpacing people's income growth, and that is not a healthy development.
When it comes to home buying, Lawrence Yoon recommends figuring out a budget and sticking to it. And when it comes to housing costs, he recommends this.
About 1/3 of people's gross income should be dedicated for housing costs.
For today's Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, Iran accuses Israel of striking its consulate in Syria, a potential escalation of the regional conflict. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
For anyone with big loans, paying off credit cards, or financing a car, a question that still looms: when will interest rates come down? As Mike Valerio reports, new numbers watched closely by the Fed show we may be waiting a few more months.
Well, bottom line, interest rates are still so high because the Fed says that inflation has not cooled down enough to merit a rate cut. But when rates are eventually cut and come down, don't expect them to fall as quickly as they shot up.
The magic number the Federal Reserve wants for inflation is 2%, so prices stay stable and household budgets don't take a beating. Fed Chair Jerome Powell says that level is about where he'd be more comfortable cutting interest rates. New numbers out Friday from the Commerce Department show a key measure of inflation for the 12 months ending in February came in at 2.5%. In January, it was 2.4%.
These inflation numbers, it means the Federal Reserve is not going to be in a hurry to cut interest rates.
Greg McBride, chief financial analyst at Bankrate, says a rate cut is still months away, possibly in June. And when one eventually happens, do not expect borrowing costs to tumble.
If you have your money in a high yield savings account, you're still earning 4.5%, 5%, or even more. And when those interest rates come down, yes, they'll come down a bit, but you're still going to be earning well ahead of inflation.
McBride's advice, pay down debt as aggressively as possible. Take advantage of 0% and other low-rate balance transfer options. And a continued bright spot, even as rates slowly come down, our savings accounts.
Interest rates took the elevator going up. They increased very dramatically over the last 2 years. But they're going to take the stairs coming down. Interest rates are going to come down slowly, even once the Fed starts to cut rates. And so lower rates are not going to bail you out if you've got large credit card debt or you've got other high-cost debts.
So in terms of what to expect for the months ahead, Fed officials have telegraphed to us that they expect not 1, but 3 interest rate cuts this year. Analysts we speak to say that they are anticipating the first of those rate cuts to happen on June 12th. That's the latest here in Los Angeles. I'm Mike Valerio. Back to you.
Childcare is a huge cost for many families. On average, $1,600 a month for infants in San Diego. Some families get help through subsidies, but they have to make a very low income to qualify. As part of the special KPBS series, Where's My Village? Reporter Tanya Thorne looks at the subsidy gap.
It's very hard. Trying to get food for twins, clothing. People always ask how it is with twins and tell them it's 2 babies at once, so it's double the diapers, double everything.
Masada Ellis is a father of 4.
I mean, just last night, both twins went to potty, and it's, I'm done, so then you got to go and wipe one, go wipe the other.
His youngest, Manar and Mahir, are 5 years old. They go to a Head Start program in San Diego, free childcare for families who qualify.
It's helped a lot because we can't afford it.
Masada's twins were able to get into the program when they were 2 years old. It helped his family even more after COVID shuttered their event planning business.
So when they came to Head Start, it helped them learn how to adapt to the world and be familiar with people.
Families like Masada's can get funds for childcare, but they have to make a low income to qualify. That leaves many families in a chasm. They make too much to get help, but not enough to actually afford childcare.
I would say the system is not ideal. There are many legislated hoops that parents have to jump through to be able to access the dollars.
Kim McDougall and Courtney Baltiski advocate for childcare for the San Diego County YMCA.
We're seeing more, at least state legislators who are willing to understand what some of those hoops are and at least try to dismantle some of the cumbersome systems that are barriers for families.
Just over a third of kids in California met the criteria in 2020, but there's just one bar for the entire state, which means in expensive places like San Diego, far more families likely need help.
Then we can really capture that segment of the population that really has no other option. They cannot pay for it and they cannot access the subsidy.
Advocates have worked to reduce the fees families have to pay, even if they get subsidized care, and make the process of signing up much easier. One of Head Start's barriers of entry is simply optics. Some families who would qualify for the program just don't know it exists as an option for them. Masada has seen this firsthand.
I went to a conference and I was out eating with my spiritual mom and dad, and they told me their waiter, they see him all the time, and they say he's such a great person. He talked to me and he told me he had a 2-year-old, and I was like, wow. And he's like, yeah, but it's hard out here. And I told him about Head Start and early education, and he had no idea about it. He started crying right there, and I was so shocked to see that he was crying because he understood that now he can have help and he didn't have to worry about working so much. It's just hard for a lot of people out here. It's very hard for a lot of people out here.
In San Diego, families can go to childcaresandiego.com to check their eligibility for subsidies. The experience with Head Start has been so positive for Masada and his children that he's now fighting for an expansion of the program.
It was just natural to want to give back and see all the families that they help. My kid goes to school and he starts counting, and I'm like, that's not Spanish and it's Tagalog. And I'm like, whoa, you know how to count to 10 in Tagalog? Okay, wow. Then he counts to 10 in Spanish, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then it's in English, and I'm like, that's supposed to be. Come to find out, my kids have friends that are African. They have friends that are Dominican, Puerto Rican, all kind of Latin different friends, and they don't know anything. They just know that they speak a different language, and it's so cool that they want to learn it too.
He's gone as far as Washington with his message.
I was in Washington advocating, and I texted a friend, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm in Washington advocating for early education." And she said, "Could you tell Congress people that there are people out here who are staying in abusive relationships because they can't afford to live single out here in San Diego, only by themselves or with a child or two is very hard." So my message is to anyone who's listening to always look into early education and to let's make this world better for all of us. I felt like I have a voice and I could use my voice and my platform to be heard and seen by people that need to hear and see other people who can't be heard.
And that was Tanya Thorne reporting. We will have a new episode next Monday. You can also stream the entire series right now. Just go to kpbs.org/Where's My Village. On Thursday, the California Wolf Center in Julian will send 3 of their male wolves to Chicago's Brookfield Zoo. It's part of the captive management program that's helped Mexican gray wolves rebound from near extinction. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge visited the center and has the story.
There are 23 Mexican gray wolves that live at the California Wolf Center, spread across 50 acres in Julian. It may seem like plenty of room, but when males get to be 1.5 years old, the place gets kind of crowded. Sierra McIsaac says the males become independent and get the itch to leave and start their own pack, a process called dispersal.
And we have a pack of wolves where they are, it is mom and dad and 7 boys. And so these brothers are starting to have a little bit of tension, but what's really awesome is we are able to have that natural dispersal.
That's where the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago comes in. McIsaac, the wolf care coordinator at the Wolf Center, says Brookfield has opened up what she calls a wonderful habitat space. And this week they're going to send 3 wolves there to imitate the natural process of dispersal of young males.
And they're going to be going to Brookfield Zoo, which is really exciting.
The California Wolf Center in Julian is part of a nationwide system they call the Mexican Wolf Safe Program. It's a captive breeding program that has brought the species back from the brink of extinction. Teresa Kozin is the executive director of the Wolf Center. She says in the 1970s, their count in the American Southwest got down to 13 in the wild. But recent counts by U.S. Fish and Wildlife have brought much better news. Today, there are at least 257 Mexican gray wolves in the U.S.
About 40% of them are collared, so there's usually 1 collared wolf in every pack in the wild. So they use that collar to track them, and then they can do a count of how many we have in the wild.
2 years ago, their count increased 23%. Last year's census showed it was up another 6%. Their habitat is the American Southwest. There are some, but many fewer, in Mexico. Conservation groups increase wild populations with protection programs. They also cross-foster wolf pups born in captivity with pups born in the wild.
So let's say we were selected to breed, we would be watching our female, and the moment that we know that she has had puppies, we will contact U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Mexican Wolf Safe Program, and say, okay, we've had puppies on May 1st. And then they will look at all their wild packs and see if there is a mom out in the wild who's had puppies.
If there is a wild den with puppies born right about the same time, the captive pups will be moved there quickly and carefully. They'll be scent marked to match the wild pups and placed in the den when the adult wolves are absent. When the wolves return,
it is the slogan of the cross-fostering program that mom can't count. And so there they go. They're out in the wild. And what's really awesome is wolves are very well known for adopting.
The management of the endangered Mexican gray wolf in captivity boils down to breeding, introducing pups to the wild, and transferring animals, like the ones going to the Brookfield Zoo in Chicago. Hopefully, in the end, that means wild populations will continue to increase. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Well, all state parks in Big Sur are closed after part of a cliff gave way on Highway 1. Crews are working to fix the road that crumbled into the ocean yesterday. Officials say the slip out was caused by a landslide. A convoy will be leading essential travelers through the closed area for the next few days. And California State Parks says that those with camping reservations will, in fact, be issued a refund.
Southern California. It was so wet this past weekend. Thankfully, I do have some good news in the forecast. Number one in our weather headlines is it's going to be drier and warmer Tuesday and Wednesday. So enjoy it while you can, because it's not going to stick around for too long. Look at number two on our list. Cooler and windy later on this week as well. We're going to be turning wet. So big changes on tap, both in the near term and in the long term. I do want to take us out to the region here. For tonight, we are going to be dropping down to a low of 48 in Oceanside, San Diego. Look at you, you're at 50. And as we head a little bit further east, more inland, Ramona at 40, Borrego Springs dropping down to a low of 50. As for tomorrow, where do highs go? Well, you're sitting nice and pretty, especially there along the coast. I call this Goldilocks weather, upper 60s and even low 70s as you head a little bit further inland. And Borrego Springs, not too hot with a high of 81. Mount Laguna, a little chilly, but not too bad for this time of year with a high of 47. I do want to take us over the next few days because I told you there's changes in the forecast. Tuesday, Wednesday, great along the coast. Get out and about, enjoy this gorgeous weather, because by Thursday it's going to be a little cooler, and then by Friday that's when we're going to start to see some rain push on through and temperatures continue to drop. And while the story looks the same further inland as well, highs are going to be running in the low 70s Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we drop a pretty sharp drop too on Thursday with a high of 63, and by Friday we're in the 50s again with a couple of showers making their way on through and still staying a little bit on the cooler side through the weekend. As for the mountains, well, you'll continue to warm over these next few days. You'll even hit a high of 51 on Wednesday before we drop back down to the low 40s by Thursday, becoming very windy, and I'm not even going to rule out a flake flying around, but we are concerned just about a few showers moving in towards the later half of the week. As for the deserts, well, it's just going to be increasingly windy, but you'll also experience that big drop off when it comes to our temperatures, mid 80s by Wednesday, back down to the low 60s there by Friday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
The new month means a new opportunity to honor people living on the autism spectrum. April is Autism Awareness Month, and KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us it begins with a puppet show, creating community and understanding.
I have Leo, the main star of the show, Leo in the Magic Jacket. Is that right? Yeah, that's right, yeah.
This dynamic duo has a special relationship centered on a magic jacket.
Magic jacket that, like, if I wear it and it gives me the abilities to fly like Superman or like a genie, I can make wishes. I'm just kidding. No, not really.
6-year-old Leo is a precocious boy who happens to be a puppet brought to life by his puppeteer, Carlos Herrera.
Well, he's the most unique puppet I've played so far, so that's a plus one. Oh, thanks. You're right. Yeah.
Leo and the Magic Jacket is now in rehearsals here at the Marie Hitchcock Puppet Theater in Balboa Park. The popular family-friendly performance space is taking on a new artistic adventure just in time for Autism Awareness Month. Heather Whitney is the playwright.
It came from my experiences with family members who have autism. I've worked in school districts a couple of different times in my life and worked with kids who have autism and other special needs.
That's a locomotive. It runs on gas like trucks. It can go really fast.
Leo is living with autism and turns to his classmates for support when he needs it. On this particular day, a laundry accident leaves him without his jacket.
I just call it a magic jacket because it makes me feel special, and when I wear it, it makes me feel safe.
The story includes some original music and even dance, experiences children would find in any classroom. But But this one also offers lessons in acceptance of anyone who might feel just a little bit different.
Whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's religion, whether it's disability, it's about meeting people where they are and accepting them for exactly who they are.
The cast of characters audiences will meet in this show are mostly made of foam, plastic, hinges, and rods, and heart.
Give me a big smile.
By making it puppets and not live actors, it broadens its appeal and its ability to storytell.
Carlos and Leo can't wait to tell you their story.
He makes all my words come out. He makes all my movements. I can even do a little shimmy like this.
Don't miss the dynamic duo this month before they dance off into the sunset. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And Leo and the Magic Jacket at the Puppet Theater in Balboa Park. It runs the next 2 weekends, April 5th through the 14th, with 3 shows each and every day. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on NPR's Morning Edition. Will the hype surrounding Women's March Madness translate to the bottom line? And March 31st marked the annual Transgender Day of Visibility. KPBS Midday Edition is hosting a discussion with LGBTQ plus advocates and leaders. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.